Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts. And welcome to you, the listener, to a brand new deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We are taking a much closer look today at the really powerful, often invisible forces that are actively shaping the entire global cruise industry. And we're thrilled you're joining us for this.
Absolutely, because, to truly understand where the maritime world is heading right now, you have to look far beyond the glossy brochures.
Right. The midnight buffets and
The water slides, exactly. Today, our editorial lens is focused on three structural pillars that are really defining the next era of cruising. We're looking at the emergence of alternative live-at-sea models, the massive behind-the-scenes shipyard capacity required to maintain these modern behemoths, and finally, the intense port politics deciding where these ships can actually go.
Right, because whether you're a seasoned cruiser with, dozens of sailings under your belt, or you're just fascinated by the mechanics of global tourism, this deep dive is going to give you an insider's view.
Yeah, we really want to pull back the curtain on the invisible machinery driving all of this.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that first pillar, the evolution of residential cruising.
Right.
Because historically, the idea of living on a cruise ship permanently felt like a kind of a novelty, didn't it?
Yeah, maybe a solitary pursuit for a very specific type of wealthy retiree who just booked back-to-back sailings on a standard commercial line.
But the reporting we're looking at today shows this concept is shifting into a fully networked lifestyle brand.
It really is. Operators are now actively teaming up to offer unprecedented flexibility, but they are doing it without actually merging companies.
Right.
Specifically, we're looking at a brand new strategic marketing alliance between Avora Residences and Villa V Residences.
And this is a really crucial distinction for you to keep in mind. We are not talking about a corporate merger here. Both of these companies maintain completely separate ownership, separate management, and distinct brand positioning.
Exactly. The core concept tying them together is reciprocal access. They're basically building a framework that gives residents of either brand cross-brand experiences.
So it essentially gives a resident more itinerary options around the globe without changing how either company operates day to day.
Yes. And in this partnership, Avora is positioned as the ultra-luxury counterpart to Villa Vi's existing product.
Let's talk about that luxury product for a second, because Avora just released the details for their inaugural residential ship, the Lumina.
Right, debuting in January 2028 from Lisbon.
And when I was looking over the financial breakdown for this, the numbers just leaped off the page.
Oh, they paint a very clear picture of the demographic they're courting. If you want full ownership of a villa on the Lumina, prices start at $545,000.
And that's just for the entry-level Dawn Villa, right?
Right. And they scale all the way up to over $4.28 million for the top-tier Lumina Villa. And to be clear, that's just the initial purchase price.
But what if I don't have $4 million lying around to buy a condo on the ocean?
Well, they do offer an alternative 5-year ownership plan that begins at a more approachable $219,600.
Okay, slightly better.
But the real financial commitment comes afterward. You have to factor in the monthly fees.
Oh, boy.
For single occupancy, residents will pay anywhere from $8,355 to a staggering $28,525 every single month.
$28,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
What could possibly justify that kind of HOA fee? You could rent a penthouse in Manhattan for that.
Well, you aren't just paying for maintenance. You're buying into basically a turnkey sovereign lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's essentially a floating, gated 5-star community.
Yeah.
Across all categories, they provide marble bathrooms, in-room espresso machines, 24-hour room service. They heavily prioritize connectivity with Starlink internet and a dedicated business center.
Targeting digital nomads, basically.
Exactly. A younger demographic of wealthy digital nomads who plan to work remotely while traveling the world.
It sounds like they are trying to eliminate every single friction point of daily life.
Yeah.
You get twice weekly housekeeping, laundry service, unlimited spa access, which includes the sauna, hot tub, and steam room.
Plus, there's a fitness center, yoga classes, dining venues with world-class chefs, and premium beverages like craft cocktails and barista coffee are entirely included.
Not to mention live theater, an art gallery, guest lectures. But perhaps the most significant logistical benefit is that all port charges and gratuities are rolled into those monthly fees.
Right. You literally never have to reach for your wallet.
It is the ultimate permanent vacation. But here's the catch. The Lumina doesn't enter service until January 2028. If I buy a residence today, how does this new alliance with Villa V actually benefit me right now?
What's fascinating here is the transition plan they've developed to bridge that gap. Michael Pedersen, the founder of Villa Residences, framed this perfectly when he noted that luxury today is defined by access and freedom.
Okay.
So to deliver on that, they created a pathway for future Lumina residents to start their life at sea much sooner. Instead of sitting in a house on land for 4 years waiting for a ship to be built, you can travel on Villa Vi's existing active ship, the Odyssey.
And they're actively incentivizing this, right?
They are. Villa V announced a promotion where guests who booked a minimum 3-month stay aboard Odyssey in February 2024 received a complimentary 2-week visit aboard the Lumina after it debuts.
Wow.
And as the CEO of Villa V pointed out, many future Lumina owners are anxious to start traveling immediately. This drastically reduces their waiting period.
But the logistics of how they plan to swap these passengers is wild to me.
That rendezvous.
Yes. They are organizing a massive ship-to-ship rendezvous in Miami in late January 2028. Residents on the Odyssey will physically transition directly onto the Lumina when the two vessels meet up in the harbor. Just picturing two floating cities pulling alongside each other to transfer residents, it's incredible.
The visual alone is striking, and it really highlights the immense logistical effort required to make this lifestyle feel seamless, which actually leads us perfectly into our second pillar today.
Right, because as residential ships like Lumina and these gigantic commercial mega vessels hit the water, they're creating a severe practical bottleneck.
Exactly. Dedicated repair capacity.
Where do you park a 20-story floating city when it needs a tune-up?
You know, the infrastructure to lift these modern behemoths entirely out of the water for maintenance simply hasn't kept pace with the shipbuilding itself. That is the driving force behind the massive $600 million dual dock expansion program currently underway at the Grand Bahama Shipyard in Freeport.
And this is not some small independent boatyard. This is a massive joint venture backed by heavyweights. Carnival Corporation, Royal Caribbean Group, and MSC Cruises are all direct ownership partners.
Yes. They've heavily invested in making this specific facility work. Their shared goal is to position Freeport as a primary world-class ship repair ecosystem.
So the whole $600 million upgrade revolves around two gigantic floating dry docks. Let's look at the first piece of this puzzle, which is already operational, the East End floating dry dock.
Right. It arrived late last year, and the dimensions are staggering. It's 357 meters long with a 93,500-ton lifting capacity.
And they had to complete major infrastructure overhauls just to prepare for it, right?
Yes, including extending their existing pier. And it's already proven its value. In January 2026, the East End dock completed its first official lift.
Raising the Carnival Elation out of the water.
Exactly. A ship built in 1998, up for a planned 3-week maintenance period.
During that time, they had to handle technical and statutory work. But for those of us who aren't maritime engineers, what exactly does statutory work entail?
Think of it like a mandatory safety inspection to keep your car registration valid, but on a massive international scale.
Okay.
Cruise ships are legally required by international maritime law to be pulled out of the water every few years. Inspectors check the integrity of the hull, the propulsion systems, the underwater valves. They have to ensure the vessel is physically safe to carry thousands of human beings.
So the Elation gets its checkup and then resumes its itineraries out of Jacksonville. But the East End is really just the warm-up act.
It is. The real game changer is the second half of this program, the Lucayan floating dry dock.
Which was formally delivered on February 6, 2026 in Qingdao, China. And the scale is almost hard to comprehend.
It measures 413.96 meters in length and 85.11 meters in width.
You could lay the Empire State Building on its side inside this dock and still have room to spare.
Exactly. It places it squarely among the world's largest floating docks. It is specifically engineered to handle the maintenance needs of the absolute largest cruise ships on the planet today.
Including Royal Caribbean's ultra-large Icon-class ships. But I always wonder how something that big actually works. How do you lift a ship that weighs hundreds of thousands of tons?
It relies on an intelligent ballast system. The dry dock essentially sinks itself intentionally by filling its massive internal tanks with ocean water.
Okay.
The cruise ship then floats into the submerged cradle. Once it's positioned perfectly, the dry dock pumps the water out of its tanks, regaining its buoyancy, and that slowly lifts the entire cruise ship up into the air, completely exposing the hull.
That's amazing. And the Lucayan is packed with technology to manage that. It's certified by Lloyd's Register, features automated dock control systems. But the reporting also highlights digital twin technology for operational oversight. What is a digital twin in this context?
Think of it as a perfect, highly detailed virtual replica of the actual ship and the dock, like a video game model.
Oh, I see.
Engineers can simulate the entire lifting process or test complex repairs on the digital model in real time before they ever touch the physical metal of the hull.
Wow, that must save millions of dollars in trial and error.
It does, and it massively improves safety. If we connect this to the bigger picture, without this specific type of ultra-large infrastructure, the entire cruise industry's growth strategy would physically stall.
Right. You can't build Icon-class megaships if you don't have a dock large enough to pull them out of the water for their required maintenance.
Exactly. The Grand Bahama Shipyard expansion is the hidden physical enabler of the next generation of ship design.
And as a cruiser, you might not think you care about drydocks. But this $600 million shipyard is the only reason you'll be able to sail on those new megaships in the next decade. No dock, no ship.
That's right.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The port politics.
Oh, yes.
Because once you build a megaship and you find a place to repair it, you still have to navigate the fierce political battles over where it can actually dock.
Which brings us to our third pillar today. We're focusing on Manatee County, Florida, where a highly contentious local fight is unfolding over a proposed private cruise terminal.
And before we dive into the details, we want to be absolutely clear that we are looking at the facts and arguments completely impartially here. We're reporting on the viewpoints of the groups involved, not endorsing either side.
Right. So the conflict centers on a 328-acre piece of land called the Knott Cowan Tract near the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. A company called SSA Marine and the landowner, Slipknot LLC, are proposing a multi-berth deepwater cruise terminal at this site.
The pro-development argument highlights a major logistical advantage. By placing a terminal here, newer, larger cruise ships can completely bypass the bridge's height limitations.
Which is a real issue. As ships have gotten taller with more decks and water parks, many modern megaships physically cannot fit under the Skyway Bridge to reach Port Tampa Bay.
Right. And supporters are promising a massive economic injection. They say a terminal here would create 31,000 construction jobs, $1.6 billion in labor earnings, and $40 million in annual tax revenue.
But there's a catch. The proposed location sits right next to the Terra Ceia Aquatic Preserve. And that proximity has sparked fierce opposition from environmentalists, local lawmakers, and residents.
Because the Terra Ceia Aquatic Preserve is a biodiversity haven. It's got manatees, sea turtles, blacktip sharks.
And opponents argue that a large-scale commercial cruise operation is fundamentally incompatible with protecting that fragile estuary.
The major sticking point seems to be the dredging. To accommodate what the industry calls deep draft passenger ships, they would need to dredge a massive channel 50 feet deep out to the Egmont Channel.
And marine geologists warn that dredging to depths of 50 feet could release harmful contaminants that have been safely trapped in the sediment, potentially triggering devastating algal blooms that destroy seagrass and marine life.
We've seen intense local pushback, rallies with people holding signs saying kayaks, not cruise ships. State Representative Will Robinson argued the project is fundamentally incompatible with the preserve, regardless of the economic promises.
This intense opposition has triggered major legislative maneuvering in Tallahassee. State Senator Jim Boyd filed an amendment to Senate Bill 302. If passed, it takes effect July 1st, and it would severely restrict dredging in the preserve.
Restricting it to what exactly?
Essentially to navigation. Public health projects like reducing stagnant water or smaller docks and marinas, effectively targeting and blocking the massive industrial dredging required for a cruise terminal.
But there is a major legal wildcard here that makes this so complex. The developers claim they hold dredge and fill rights from the 1950s.
Right. Decades before the aquatic preserve was even created.
That's wild. A legal loophole from 70 years ago, potentially overriding modern environmental protections.
It's a true legal paradox, and SSA Marine hasn't publicly commented on how the amendment would affect their planning.
So what does this all mean? It is a perfect microcosm of modern cruising. A high-stakes clash between lucrative tourism megaprojects and the protection of irreplaceable coastal ecosystems.
This raises an important question for all of us to consider. We've talked about floating residential cities, the massive high-tech dry docks required to maintain them, and these fierce political battles over deep-water ports.
Yeah.
As the industry's ambitions continue to grow, are we approaching the physical and geographical limits of the coastal environments we are trying to visit? At what point does the size of the ship permanently alter the destination?
That's a profound thought, something to consider the next time you see one of those mega ships out on the horizon. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the hidden forces steering the cruise industry. Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.